Picture two guys. Marcus and Daniel, same company, same department, same manager, they even eat lunch at the same spot on Tuesdays. In March, both of them get a raise, not a small one, a real one. Their salary goes from $52,000 a year to $65,000. That's over $1,000 extra a month, every month. Marcus calls his wife that afternoon. He tells her things are finally turning around. She laughs. He feels like he earned something real. Daniel deposits the first bigger paycheck, makes one phone call, and goes back to his day. Fast forward 18 months. Marcus is still checking his bank account before he decides whether to buy something at the grocery store. He and his wife had a fight last week about a credit card statement. He keeps saying he needs another raise. That one just wasn't enough. Daniel just put down the earnest money on a small rental property. Same raise, same starting point, same company, different outcomes, and the gap between them is growing wider every single month. The question isn't who worked harder or who got lucky. The question is what Marcus did with that $1,000 that Daniel refused to do. Here's the thing most financial content gets completely wrong. This isn't a story about budgeting. It isn't about spending less coffee or canceling subscriptions. This is about a deeply misunderstood psychological trap that the middle class is almost perfectly designed to fall into, and that every raise, every bonus, every promotion makes worse. The financial system does not fail middle-class people because they don't earn enough. It fails them because every time they earn more, the system quietly, automatically recalibrates to absorb every single dollar of that increase. And it does it so smoothly that most people never even notice it happened. I'm going to show you the exact rules behind why a raise almost never changes your financial position, and what has to change before it ever will. These aren't generic tips. They're the mechanics of why the middle-class wealth gap exists, and once you see them, you cannot unsee them. Let's go. Rule 1. The raise doesn't land the way it looks on paper. This is where most people make the first mistake, before they even spend a dollar. When Marcus heard he was going from $52,000 to $65,000, his brain registered a $13,000 increase. That number felt real and whole. But here's what actually arrived in his paycheck. After federal income tax, state tax, FICA, and the slightly higher withholding that kicks in when your income crosses certain thresholds, that $13,000 raise becomes closer to $8,500 in actual take-home money, roughly $700 a month, not $1,083, not the full number, $700. And here's what nobody says out loud. If Marcus had a pre-tax benefit like a $401k contribution that scales with income, or a health insurance tier that bumps up at a new salary bracket, that number gets trimmed again. The psychological damage here is invisible. Marcus is mentally spending based on $13,000 of new income. His lifestyle adjustments are calibrated to a number that was never real. He starts from a deficit, and he doesn't even know it. The first rule of a raise: always calculate the net, not the gross. The gross number is for your ego. The net number is the only one that has ever mattered. Rule 2. Your identity expands with your income, and identity is the most expensive thing you own. This one is uncomfortable because it has nothing to do with logic and everything to do with how people see themselves. When Marcus got that raise, something shifted in how he defined who he was. He was now a person who earned $65,000, and people who earned $65,000 in his mind lived slightly differently than people who earned $52,000. Not dramatically. Not a yacht, just better. A newer car because the old one embarrassed him at client meetings. A slightly nicer apartment because the family deserved it now. Clothes that matched the version of himself he was becoming. Dinners out more frequently because you work hard and you should enjoy the fruits of that work. None of these decisions felt like splurges. Each one felt justified. But here's what happened mathematically. His fixed monthly expenses increased by roughly $680. His raise after tax gave him $700. He captured $20 of financial progress per month. Meanwhile, Daniel's identity didn't move. He was the same person at $65,000 that he was at $52,000. Not because he was self-denying or miserable, but because he had separated his self-worth from his spending level years earlier. The psychological insight here is what researchers call the aspiration treadmill. The moment your income rises, your reference point for what a normal life looks like rises with it. And once your identity attaches to a lifestyle tier, dropping below it feels like failure, not discipline. Rule 3. A raise feels like permission. I want you to think about what a raise actually communicates to your brain. It says, you are doing well, you have been recognized, you are secure, you have more room now. And the moment your brain registers more room, it starts filling it. That gym membership you've been putting off, now you can afford it. That weekend trip you've been postponing, you've earned it. That furniture you've been tolerating, it's time to upgrade it. None of these feel reckless. None of them are reckless in isolation. But what's happening is that every suppressed desire you've been holding at bay now gets greenlit simultaneously, because the raise didn't just give you money, it gave you psychological permission to spend. Daniel understood something different. He knew that a raise is not permission. It's inventory. It's raw material. And raw material is only valuable if you do something deliberate with it before your brain decides to do something impulsive with it. He automated a transfer to a separate investment account the same week the new paycheck hit. Not at the end of the month, the same week. Because he understood that the raise never really existed as spending money. It existed as future money. And if he didn't physically separate it before his brain could categorize it as available, it would vanish the same way every other raise had. Rule 4. Lifestyle inflation compounds just like interest in the wrong direction. Here's something nobody puts a number on. Let's say after his raise, Marcus's monthly expenses increased by $600. That's real money leaving his life, money that could have been invested. But the hidden cost isn't just that $600. It's what that $600 would have become. $600 a month, invested over 20 years at a 7% average annual return, grows to approximately $314,000. Marcus didn't spend $600 a month. He spent $314,000 of future wealth per month, and he did it without ever making a single irresponsible purchase. He just lived a little better. Like you're supposed to when you earn more. Like everyone around him was doing. That's the part that makes this cruel. The middle-class lifestyle isn't a series of bad decisions. It's a series of completely normal, socially encouraged decisions that happen to have catastrophic long-term financial consequences when you add them up. And here's what makes it worse, this compounds. Each raise brings a new level. Each level becomes the new normal. Each normal is nearly impossible to walk back. Not because of math, but because of pride. Rule 5. The people around you are the most expensive influence in your life. I'm not talking about peer pressure the way it's taught in schools. I'm talking about something quieter and far more powerful. When Marcus got his raise, the people closest to him, colleagues, neighbors, family, all recalibrated their expectations of him. Subtly. Nobody said a word, but the dynamics shifted. He was the person who could grab the check at dinner now. He was the one who could do the nicer vacation. He was the one who could upgrade his kids' school activity. And when you're surrounded by people who have accepted an implicit lifestyle standard, stepping back from it doesn't just feel frugal, it feels like a social demotion. What nobody talks about is that the most expensive thing in Marcus's life wasn't his car payment or his mortgage. It was his social environment and the unspoken financial expectations that came with it. The research on this is clear. Your income and spending patterns will converge toward the median of your 5 closest relationships over time. That's not a metaphor, it's a measurable phenomenon. The people around you set your financial normal. Daniel wasn't a monk. He had the same friends. But he had also quietly added 2 or 3 relationships with people who were genuinely wealth-building, not because they talked about money constantly, but because the way they made ordinary decisions was different. Their version of normal was different, and that version slowly became his. Rule 6. You keep upgrading the floor, you never raise the ceiling. This is the most important distinction nobody makes. When most people get more money, they raise their baseline, their floor, the minimum acceptable standard for their daily life. Better apartment, better car, better groceries, better gym, better clothes, that's the floor going up. But your ceiling, the maximum possible future you're building toward, stays exactly where it was, or gets pushed further away because the gap between your income and your expenses, which is the only raw material wealth is ever built from, has narrowed. Wealthy people do the opposite. When income rises, they hold the floor steady and raise the ceiling. They don't change what they live on. They change what they're building toward. Their lifestyle is often indistinguishable from what it was 2 years ago, but their net worth looks nothing like it did 2 years ago. The middle class has been told that a better life means a more comfortable life right now. Nobody told them that the most powerful move you can ever make is to refuse to let your comfort level scale with your income, even temporarily, so that your future can scale permanently. Rule 7. The real raise is the one that doesn't change your monthly number. Most people never ask this question. What if I structured my finances so that my take-home lifestyle number stayed exactly the same after every raise? Not forever. Not as a punishment. Just long enough for the difference to compound into something that actually changes the trajectory of your life. If Marcus had taken his $700 a month in new take-home pay and immediately rooted every dollar of it into index funds or a rental property down payment fund, his daily life would have looked identical to the month before the raise. Nothing would have changed except the thing that actually matters. In 3 years, he would have accumulated over $25,000 in assets, plus compounding returns, while maintaining the exact same lifestyle he already found acceptable and comfortable. Instead, he is sitting at a lunch table complaining that $65,000 still isn't enough, and thinking about what he'll do when he finally gets to $80,000. I'm not done yet. Because here's the part that makes this a trap rather than just a mistake. When Marcus does get to $80,000, the exact same mechanism will fire again, and without understanding this, he will arrive at $80,000, expand to fill it, and have the same conversation 2 years later about how $80,000 still isn't enough. The number is not the problem. The number has never been the problem. Rule 8. The gap is the only thing that builds wealth. Everything else is noise. Let's make this concrete. Wealth is not built from income. It's built from the gap between income and expenses. That gap, that margin, is the only raw material that has ever built financial security for anyone, at any income level, in any era. A person earning $120,000 with $118,000 in annual expenses is financially fragile. A person earning $60,000 with $42,000 in annual expenses is building real long-term security, assuming that $18,000 gap is being deployed intelligently. The middle class has been sold the idea that the path to financial security runs through higher income. Earn more, problem solved. But here's what that belief does. It makes you passive. It makes you wait for the next raise, the next promotion, the next external event to change your situation. And while you wait, the gap closes and you stay exactly where you are. The uncomfortable truth is that financial security is something you architect right now, at whatever income you have today, by protecting and widening the gap, not by hoping the income side of the equation eventually grows large enough to bail out the expenses side. No income has ever been large enough to outrun an unlimited appetite for lifestyle, so let's go back to Marcus and Daniel. Same raise, same company, same starting point. What actually happened in those 18 months? Marcus did what felt natural, what felt earned, what everyone around him was doing. His lifestyle expanded quietly, automatically, the way it always had, because nothing in his mental model had changed. The raise was supposed to fix things. It felt like it would. It didn't. Daniel did one thing differently. He understood that a raise is not a solution. It's a test. It asks the same question your last raise asked, and the raise before that. Are you going to let this money change your life or just your month? He rooted the difference before his brain registered it as available. His lifestyle didn't move. His gap widened. His ceiling rose. That's it. That's the whole difference. Not intelligence. Not discipline in the painful, white-knuckle sense. Just a different understanding of what a raise actually is, and a decision, made once, before the money arrived, about what it was going to do. The raise you're waiting for will not fix your finances, but understanding what you're about to do with it might. Subscribe for more frameworks that actually change how you think about money.